and say hello to everyone who's joined us for our Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering. My name's Lisa Levinson, and I am one of your hosts this evening. And together, what we do is we explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And we do this each month online, but there's also in-person groups that meet in various locations in different cities across the country. And you can find out more about them by going to veganspirituality.com. And the local groups have potlucks and speakers and go out on outings, although most of this will continue after the COVID restrictions have been lifted. So for now, we're really enjoying each other's company online. And we're so thrilled. I have my co-host here. Her name is a dear friend of mine, Judy Carmen. She's the author of Peace to All Beings. And she's going to share a little bit more about our special guest speaker this evening. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks. And hi, everybody. We're so glad you joined us. And we're so excited because Nikki Benoit has joined us as our guest tonight. And she has so much to teach us. So I'm going to read a little bit about her. Nikki Benoit, an East Coast native, spent her college years and beyond as an activist for animals. Also, the environment and social justice. So she's been around, needing to make sense of and come to peace with everything along the way. She began her work on the spiritual level. When she realized that the conditions of our outer world are just reflecting the conditions of humanity's inner world, her focus shifted to energy healing and yoga, energy healing arts and yoga. Now she is a Reiki Master, a yoga and meditation instructor, an author. Her book is called Piecing It Together, which is spelled Peacing. And she is also a speaker, and she lives in Southern Florida. She hosts healing events and discussions on why animals matter, the magic of living a heart and intuition-led life, and the importance of self-love, the recipe for global peace. Her website is therootofallpeace.com. She also has a Patreon page, and her mission is to support people in realizing their personal mastery. So here we are together with Nikki, and we're so thrilled. Nikki, tell us about how you learned about vegan living. And while you were learning that, you were also doing activism with environmentalists and peace people, peace and justice people. And a lot of them are not vegan. So I'm imagining that you were a wonderful example to all of them. And because you were showing how you were living in alignment with your highest values, which matched their values in many, many ways. So hopefully many of those people observed you and went vegan just from being in your presence. But tell us about your journey. How did you learn about veganism and decide to become vegan?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Judy, and for a beautiful welcome. And thank you, Lisa, and In Defense of Animals and the Spirituality the Vegan Group. I'm just really touched to be here. I'm excited that this group exists. It's a very powerful force for paving the new way. So thank you for having me. So Judy, to your original question, I feel like the beginning of my vegan journey was in resistance to being vegan. I didn't think it was necessary. It felt like it was extreme. And at that point, I was in college to help conserve wildlife, and I wasn't eating chicken. A friend of mine told me about what they do to chickens in the industry, and I thought, I'm doing more than most people. I don't need to go all the way and be vegan. It's not natural. It's not healthy. And in college, I was learning all the things and sitting around other students, and they're learning the same things. And so I went vegetarian and they didn't. And I'm like, I don't understand. We just learn the same stuff. Why aren't we all cutting out meat, right? And then it wasn't until 10 months into my vegetarianism, my senior year, that Yourofsky, if you've heard of him. He came to speak
yeah.
at my campus. I was at the University of Florida, and he spoke on ethical veganism to the campus animal rights group. And I couldn't not see what he was showing. And he made the comparison, the parallel of how we reduce women to the value of their body parts, and therefore the female animals get the same treatment. And he was explaining and showing, you know, the mother cows and the egg laying hens and the beautiful bodies and biology. And at that point, I had already had my heart open for environmental reasons, and I'd already disconnected from the industry enough that I could look a chicken in the face, you know, relatively without guilt. So my guard was down. And so I was able to let myself, my ego was out of the way. I was able to let myself really receive the information from not being in a defensive stance. And at that point, there was no decision to make. And from that point, I feel like it really expedited a tremendous healing in my soul to help align my human with my soul, which I think is what humanity is being drawn to do right now, because we've been very out of alignment with our soul. Our soul is unity consciousness. Our soul is pure love for all life. Our human, on the other hand, is like a computer, so it has programs. So with my environmental activism and my social justice activism, it's all rooted in the same alignment of unity consciousness. I brought other components to it that my ego let me look at. And so when I had headbutts with other environmentalists and social justice folks who were not understanding the role that our food choices in relationship to animals make, and the big scheme of justice and love, they didn't see it, not because they were stupid or bad, but because we have this, as adults, children don't have this, but we have this wall up that seeks to defend its image and its identity as a good person. And it doesn't want that compromised. And so when you bring up something that's off someone's radar and they're not in a space where they're able to receive, really drink in the information, that's when there's friction. And so I really learned a lot about how to fully accept people for who they are. And that changed me dramatically. So I was able to show up in the world in a way that didn't trigger that wall. I in time stopped judging people. I judged them big time in the beginning. Like my ego was all over the place. I was so angry. And I think that's a valuable stage to go through. We're human. We're going to go through layers of deprogramming, right? So it took me a little bit of my own personal healing work, as you had said, with the spirituality and that focus, for me to shift my relationship with my ego and let more of my love and my heart for all beings, including the animal abusers, be able to guide me more than my wounded parts, which was very angry. Because I didn't feel like I was going to ultimately have as big of an impact for the message of love that I felt so clear inside. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I knew in my soul that if it wasn't love related, it probably wasn't on the right path.
Wow, you explained that so well. And of course, Gary is a powerful voice. Oh my goodness. I think he's changed a lot of people's minds about and hearts about animals. So that's amazing that you heard him speak, and just in time, it sounds like. But I love what you're saying about how the spirituality of it, the heart part of it, and how that helped you deal with the anger, because we've all gone through that. And like you said, even to love the perpetrators and the people who just don't get the message yet. So it's so important. And well, one of my questions was how your activism became part of your spiritual path, and you kind of addressed that a little bit, but tell us more about that, because you've done a lot of activism, and yet you've also, like everybody who's listening in, and us, Lisa and I, have brought the spirituality into our activism. And it's such a healing thing to be able to do that. So tell us a little bit more about your activism and how your spirituality worked together with that.
So there were, I think, different evolutions. So I was in Florida when I went vegan at University of Florida, and then through these different incarnations of what that looked like. I worked for Florida Voices for Animals. It's a Tampa-based animal rights group, and was with them for a year and a half. The economy tanked. I was hired by Vegan Outreach to move to Southern California, which was what brought me there. And in that time, the only thing that felt right to me, activism-wise, was leafleting, because it felt like, you know, I'm not fighting and arguing, and I'm not, you know, pushing at people's defenses. I'm just sweetly offering them information. And so it felt like that was part of my spiritual path, was to also embody that light and walk my days with lit footprints, right? Like lit energy as I hand out lit booklets to people, smiling and embodying the energy of love. And that was a perfect fit for 3 years. And then internally something started to shift again. And I thought, okay, I know something is birthing in me and I don't know what it's going to look like. And so there was some panic, right? This spiritual path has some ups and downs, but you know, you're ultimately going like this. You're going down, but you're going up at the same time. And so I parted ways with Vegan Outreach after about 3 years and didn't know what my next chapter was going to look like. I knew that it wasn't going to be highlighting what's going on. It felt like I was being guided to shift to like really channel my attention into the solution piece, which highlighting what's going on is a solution in and of itself, but I felt like I was being redirected to really boost up the alternative. So I worked with Hampton Creek for a little bit, right when they first started. I was doing just mayo samples in Whole Foods. That was a yummy job. That was fun. And, you know, it was, you know, on a personal level, a lot was breaking down, because when you make a declaration that you're going to live in a path of light, any program that we have that was built on and operated on fear or shoulds or programming or even ancestral distortions of reality, which we all have in some fashion, then when you make that declaration to living in light, all those things are going to crumble. We're seeing that happen on a global stage. We're seeing that in the United States. We're seeing all of the fear-based illusions of separation lose their grip. And it's a detox, so it's unpleasant. If you've ever done a detox, you know how just is not pleasant. So I was going through a microcosm of a detox. So all of a sudden, none of my life worked anymore. And I knew that I had to really shift my focus inside and work on Nikki. And in doing that, is really when I amped up my declaration to only listening to my intuition and my heart. And my guidance, my, you know, spirit guides, higher self, whatever I wanted to call it, I was really determined to build that. So in Los Angeles, there's tons of spiritual healers. I started working with a shaman. I was his apprentice for a while, and he was helping clean up my energy field and of all that stuff. And my vibration was rising, and all of a sudden I couldn't drink alcohol anymore. And I'm like, what's going on? And it was this whole chaotic mess. But what was happening was I was being reoriented to, at that point, collect skills to help do the one thing that I became pretty clear on was the answer for all of animal abuse problems, which was to help humans fall in love with themselves. It became really clear, as you had mentioned in the beginning, that, you know, everything on the outside world, the chaos, the mayhem, the pollution, the abuse, the violence, the oppression, the sexism, the racism, all the isms, they're all being birthed because the energetics, the frequency of them matches a same frequency in the human being. And we are all literally like signals. We're all pulsing these vibrations out. Everything is energy. And so as long as I had any kind of an ism inside myself, any kind of a rejection or a judgment of another or myself, big or small, didn't matter, that energy was perpetuating what was being played out on the projector big screen. And so I knew that I wanted to find a way to help people fall in love with themselves. Now I have a degree in wildlife ecology and conservation. I minored in zoology. How am I going to help people fall in love with themselves at this stage of my life? You know, I wasn't getting any jobs. The universe was literally shutting door after door after door, which that happens again when you make a declaration to live in light. All the paths that are not going to be a light path for you are closed. And so I was guided to make this move, that move, this move, and launched a call to the community so that I could raise money to become a yoga teacher and an energy healer, Reiki Master. It was a download that I got, and I knew clearly that that was my next step in activism. Rather than doing activism, it was more intivism. But it was literally the book that you mentioned, the Piecing It Together book, I write in here because it was such a mystical time in life. But I mentioned that I realized with the world's problems, I equate it to that of an overflowing bathtub. And we can get the mop and we can clean up the mess all day long, but if you don't turn off the water, you're just going to keep cleaning water up all day. So I'm like, well, how do you turn the spigot off? You heal the reasons that people are so blindly walking through a world that is unintentionally or intentionally causing harm to the innocent. And so I'm like, all right, how do we turn the spigot off? Well, when people love themselves, they're aware. We're fully accepting of ourselves. Most people walk around feeling insufficient, incomplete, damaged, not worthy, unlovable. And we have to find a way to walk in this world feeling that way. It's a hostile world when you don't feel full and whole and accepted as you are. If you feel you have to be somebody you're not, if you have to people please, if you think you have to, you don't have to. But if you have those programs in you running, we don't show up in the world in a way that feels confident and secure and capable of observing everything going on, because again, the walls are down and our defenses are down and we're okay, what's going on? And now having the confidence and the courageous action to take steps to change things. Because there's a lot of psychological issues with dysfunctional behaviors. We have gossip is the glue between a lot of friendships, and complaining, that's a lot of people's identity, and all these dysfunctional ways of humaning keep us in a really small kind of a microcosm of our own uncomfortableness. And so I knew that if I can help people know how magical they are and how much value they have and how worthy they are and how much potential, infinite potential, ever expanding potential, that we don't even know the half of it. If we could live from that place, holy socks, we're going to speak up anytime there's injustice. I'm not going to vote for someone who doesn't have a pristine record. Are you kidding me? I'll run. If I don't see anybody on the panel, guess what? I'm going to run. We will literally up-level what is displayed on the human stage because we'll feel, of course, I'm supported by a kind and loving universe. I have confidence in myself. I might screw up, and that's okay because I'll forgive myself. I'm always trying. I'm always doing better, right? So the way we show up in the world is going to reflect the amount of chaos that we let happen, the amount of violence and abuse that we consider acceptable. Everything on the outside literally is an inside job. And so I knew that if I really want to make a dent and help move the needle forward to end violence and injustice on all levels, which means helping my animal activists stop hating humans. I love you guys, but come on now, we can't hate the home team, right? So finding a way to help us all do the inner work to access that infinite supply of love that is always there, will always be there, and has all the answers. This does not have the answers. The brain is a good servant. It is not a good master. We got to drop in here where the wisdom is. And you can't lie to the heart. You can't manipulate the heart. You can't control the heart. And that's another skill humans need to develop, is to be able to stand in our whole and own, and then we're not going to be manipulated and controlled. So I feel like helping there be a human race that is rooted in love of self and showing up in the world in a responsible, whole, connected to all life way, there's no abuse. To me, that just was my new chapter of activism.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so awesome. I couldn't agree more, Nikki. And that really, it sums up so well what vegan spirituality is all about, because being vegan it kind of falls short if you don't integrate the self-love, the spirituality part of it and the heart part of it, because otherwise you are just in your head trying to think of how are we going to do this. And but learning to love ourselves, I mean, you just described it so well. I wanted to read something that I saw on your website. You wrote, by uplifting ourselves, our interactions, thus our influence in the world, are uplifting. Our interactions are uplifting. Since we're all connected, healing ourselves heals others and heals how we engage with challenges around us. Our ideas for helping the world will be born out of love and compassion for all, which is where the change can happen. It's that simple. So I'm just, you've already talked somewhat about that, But tell us more about the importance of self-love. You just have such a way of explaining that, and I think we can't hear enough about it, because, like you say, we're all programmed from birth practically to criticize ourselves and feel like we just aren't enough, we're not good enough. So yeah, so tell us more about that, the self-love, and some of the things that you do to help people with that, because you have a weekly global healing and personal activation meditation thing, and tell us about, what that is. Is it on Zoom, and how can people access that? And then you also have a lot of other things that you're doing, your Reiki work and your speaking. So tell us how you can help us have more self-love, and how you're using your work, your knowledge and wisdom to help people with that.
So way back before I even went to college, I realized that everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. And so I read a book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a good book, The Reluctant Messiah, and then also Celestine Prophecies. If you're new to this and you're not really sure what I mean by energy, those are two good books to look into. And then Eckhart Tolle and New Earth. So really letting yourself remember, because nothing that I'm saying or that anybody says is new information. We're reminding ourselves, and we come together to remember together that we're all energy. And the energy, if you look at a sphere, to simplify it, love vibrates at the top of the scale, and fear is down here very low. And this is where the human ego resides. It's feeling separate, it's feeling alone and isolated, and always looking for some kind of an identity. And there's no identity that's easier to grip onto than a negative one. And we live in a society, Judy, you and I talked about this a little bit, about how the media will really play on certain topics, and it becomes like stories in our heads. So we live in a world that's always promoting products and services to improve who you are and to be better, and buy this to improve your life. And so we're always looking for external something to help us be complete and be full, right? And be whole. And I'm looking at you, Jerry Maguire. No, she didn't complete you. You were complete first, and then you would try. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But when we remember energetically, if we're operating from a place of fear, we're going to create things in the world of law of attraction where we live. If you're living and thinking and talking and behaving from a place of fear, you're going to create an entire spectrum of fear. But when you can start to shift yourself through layers of understanding and deprogramming and new understandings, and operate from a place of love, you're now creating a world that is filled with the vibration of love. And so when we look at animal abuse and violence and sexism and racism and pollution, that's all happening because of the vibration of people living down here in the fear spectrum. So the more you can start to treat yourself with love and compassion and understanding, the more you show up to others that way. And now you're bumping up the scale. You're no longer living in that fear-based place. And the fear-based place is the illusion of separation. Because remember, we're all one. I know that sounds very cliche, but literally we are like one whole being. And when we have any kind of us versus them, whether it's 99% and 1%, or animal abusers and animal activists, and you're fighting at each other, you're literally reinforcing the illusion of separation. You're all one. So when I talk about, animal activists, this hand, animal abuser, this hand, it's like the activist punching its own hand. Like, that's not going to get us. You're hating your own hand, right? So the answer, the solution to move this party up the scale is to say, okay, where's the love missing that's causing this illusion of separation? How can I bring light into it? Lena, like Dr. Martin Luther King says, is you don't change, hate doesn't drive out hate, only love can do that, right? And so having to bring this into, the minutia of our day, where am I not being loving to myself? And if you are judging yourself or criticizing yourself or condemning yourself or feeling regret and resentment, or you haven't forgiven your cousin from 14 years ago, that's keeping you down here. So the more you address each of these little topics in your life, the higher you get up the scale. And so to know that there are more people doing this inner work, dissolving all that density, the playing field is shifting, it's elevating for all of us, right? So the fact that we're having this conversation right now is a higher dimensional conversation. Some people are not going to understand these concepts, and that's fine. They're not in this realm of understanding, and no judgment. We're all going through all the layers in our own perfect soul expression time. But the more of us doing the inner work, the self-love, inner healing work, the levels of density in this globe of the earth starts to dissolve. It gets lighter, and now it's just a little easier for everybody. It's just a little easier for everybody. We're all going to the same place. We're all ascending eventually. The illusion of time is playing out as to when that's going to happen for you, but we're ultimately all here to learn and have experiences and to remember, realign our personality with our soul truth, which is unity, love, connection with all life. So that's how your individual healing is going to help the collective. And every Sunday, I host a global healing meditation. I learned about these from a woman named Sandra Walter. I was living in San Francisco, and every Wednesday back then, 3 times a day, people all over the planet would sync up with those 3 windows of time to do their own version of a global healing meditation. And Sandra has one on YouTube that I would do. It's about 30 minutes. And it's pretty cosmic and out there, and I really liked it. It was talking about the different dimensions and realms and crystalline structures, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun. That sounds good. I didn't know anything about it, but that was 5 years ago. A lot's changed in 5 years. So now, and I was trying to host groups to do these live, right? And I would play the audio, whatever, and I couldn't get anyone in California, couldn't get anyone in Austin. But then I moved to Miami. People are like, yes, let's do it. And I was so excited. So I was doing them at this really cute little place, Colley Square in South Miami. And then COVID happened, so we all became indoors. So I just started doing them online. But these activations, these meditations are global healing, but also because of the reinforced story of your body, it can't be trusted. Nature is violent and can't be trusted. And, people are dangerous. And I felt some manipulation in the storyline that was being pumped into us. So I felt like, okay, we need to do the global healing, which raises the vibration, but also support humans in knowing how powerful their bodies are, how these are not just meat suits that we're flopping around in that are subject to this whim and that whim. They are powerful communicating vessels. They're beautiful in their own mysterious, magical, and ever transformative way. So I want to help people remember that. So these meditations that I host every Sunday, they are typically either IG Live or Facebook Live, my Vibe It Up page on Facebook, or Nikki Ray, Vibe It Up 999 on Instagram. It's a long name, I know. We'll put it in the comments. But I go live with those, unless I'm hosting an outdoor hike here, which then I'll only be on Facebook. Anyway, but the videos are always available. But I host these meditations because we're raising the frequency of the collective energy, again, bumping ourselves up the scale, because everyone that listens and participates is doing their own healing, because I also incorporate the violet healing flame, which awakens your crystalline DNA and diamond structures. We boost the body's immunity, because again, that's something you can do with your story. You've all heard the placebo effect. There's a real legitimate scientific evidence to support that the thinking mind can positively or negatively influence the body and other things, but also boosting the intuition. Now, this book that I wrote, largely driven by the magic that happens when you listen to your intuition, but it is now kind of situation critical that humanity comes into a place where they not only listen to their intuition, but they trust it, build discernment, and then take action on it. I want to live in a world where humans are doing that, because you can't control people. You can't manipulate them if they're listening to their inner wisdom. There's going to be a lot of different truths out there. That's a different conversation for a different day, but I know what's going to help humanity move the needle forward. And it takes a lot of self-love to listen to your intuition. So it's a twofer.
Okay, so you offer that on Sundays, and how can people, you're going to put it in the chat box, how they can tune into that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, so that's the main thing, but do you work with people individually too?
I do here in Miami. well, really, I can do it all on Zoom now too. Reiki energy healing helps you to bring your peace and balance to the body and clear out any stuck emotions and old patterns. Help you really reflect on what's going on with you in terms of beliefs and how that plays out in the body. Also, meditation. I'm a meditation instructor as well as yoga instructor. I can do these all remote. If you want to become a Reiki practitioner, I can support you with that as well. Coaching and guidance, I offer that with a breath work practice, and that's super powerful. I just did an event last night. Breath work is one of the most powerful healing tools that humanity has. That and sound healing, those are two of the most under-recognized but gaining popularity healing modalities, because again, as vibrational beings, and we're losing that illusion of separation, anything that's vibration is going to help just shake those old stories out of your cells. It's going to help shift the neural pathways in your mind so that you're no longer operating on the dense fear stories. Because as the energies of the cosmos and therefore Earth ascend and get higher on that spectrum, because this is happening, we're going through this galactic shift, we're in the age of Aquarius. As that happens, all of your heaviness is going to come to the surface. So some people say to me, I've been on this healing path, but oh my goodness, it seems to be getting harder. And that's a good sign. That means you're really getting to the nitty gritty. You're really getting out all those old programs, because we don't realize, even if your parents were fabulous and you had the most amazing childhood, odds are that you come from a family line where there was trauma. And that trauma, if it wasn't dealt with, like most trauma isn't usually dealt with fully, that stays in your cells. That vibration, that story is in your cells, and it therefore interprets reality, right? So that's why when we look at ending slavery in the US and, the atrocities performed on the indigenous cultures with the occupations that happen here and in other places, you can't just stop doing it and everything's hunky-dory and you move forward. You have to do the back work. You have to do the atonement. You have to get into the energy. You have to grieve. You have to atone. You have to do the really deep healing work. There was during the pipeline, the Dakota pipeline issue that happened like 3 or 4 years ago. There was a beautiful moment where retired veterans in their camo came to the lands, and they, on bent knee, read an apology letter to the elders of the tribes that live there, apologizing on behalf of the US military for everything. And it was so moving, and it still gives me chills. But it was that, and the elders sat and received this apology. And that's the level of healing that we need to see happen, right? We can't just legislation. No, that's not even coming close. We're lying in the school books. We're lying with our holidays and traditions. You can't heal what you don't see. So you got to look at it. And it's not love and light to really acknowledge all of our shadows, right? But you got to look at them. We got to start looking at, here's the order. You got to look at your shadows individually and collectively. You've got to fully accept that they're there. You've got to accept them like that stinky friend that's been following you around your whole life, but they're a human being, and they deserve to be seen. So you got to feel this shadow's validity. You have to validate this exists. You can't put weird Uncle Joe in the basement anymore. You got to really face this sticky reality. So fully face, accept that they are real. Doesn't mean you condone it, but you accept it. You accept the truth that this happened. Because only from there will you finally integrate and become whole. And you're now a positive healing agent for change on the planet. We have these shadow aspects that we want to just disregard. And oh my God, that's so ugly. I don't even want to look at that. We have all these unsavory behaviors in our culture. Let's just stop doing that and shove it to the side. Whatever you fight, you strengthen. What you resist, persist. We know that it's the law of physics. For us to heal any shadow aspects, we have to fully accept it and own it and find a way. That's the work. Find a way to not hate and be disgusted by it. You've got to find a way. It doesn't feel good, but that's the only way forward. We have to integrate and accept all the dark parts. And from there, we're able to move forward. It doesn't mean jump on board and do what the dark parts were doing, but it says, okay, I see you. Now what? Now how can we bring healing? I don't know why I went down the shadow train, but it felt necessary.
Yeah, I think especially with what's going on in the world right now, I think it's begging people to look at the shadow and deal with it. like you're saying, it's just critical. But it's good that this is all happening to wake us up. So it's an opportunity like we've never had before, at least in my lifetime. So it's really, I think it's pushing a lot of people to embrace what you're talking about. So how, if people wanted to be coached by you, how could they reach you? Can they get you through your website? Is that the best way? Okay.
That's
All right, good.
My social media pages too.
Okay. And the root of all peace.com is the website. Yeah. So, okay. How are we doing on time? Because I want people to have time to ask questions. Maybe we should do that. But if you have anything else you want to add before we open for questions, please.
I think probably what I'm hearing right now is for people to start trusting themselves, trust their intuition, because there's the fear of getting it wrong, doing it wrong, misunderstanding. And that's part of growth, right? You don't look at a small child learning to walk, and if they fall down, you think, well, you suck at walking, don't ever try again. We're going to fall down. We're going to, be led to really weird paths. Like, I thought that my intuition told me to do that, but that's how you develop discernment. That's how you develop a crystal clear, pristine line of communication with your higher self. And it also requires surrender, the energy of surrender, which isn't caving in. Surrender is an allowing. So if you look at when our lives are really bumpy, either we're literally on the wrong path or our thinking is not in alignment with our higher self. So think of a train that's like really off the tracks and it's on rocks and it's just boom, boom. The more you can start to listen to your inner guidance, you get on this train track and now life is smooth. That may be taking you to places that you didn't know you wanted to go, but all of a sudden it feels really good. The synchronicity is amazing. You're more effective, and now you're accessing skills you didn't know you had. So my invitation to people is that, my intuition, I've been living this way for 6-7 years now, no, 8 years, listening to my intuition. My intuition brought me to Miami, and I was like, I'm not going to go to Miami. They're underwater. Like, hello, hurricanes, oceans coming in. I'm not moving to Miami. I left Florida, and, the people that run Florida were pissing me off because it's such a beautiful state, but they were making such bad choices on behalf of Florida. But my intuition was Miami, very loudly, constantly, and persistently, not pushing and guilting, but Miami. Your intuition is a very gentle, loving guidance. It's never going to make you feel bad or make you do anything, painful for another. But so I was following my inner guidance, and long story short, came to Miami, and it was one synchronicity after another. I was guided to a place called Aguacate Vegan Sanctuary of Love. It's aguacate is Spanish for avocado. I love avocados. But I met the owner. It was World Vegan Day last year, and it was boom, boom, one creative spark after the other. And I know that was what I was being guided to do, was to come here and support this community, and this community supporting me. And I've been here over a year, and it's been amazing, the connections that I've made and the events I've been able to provide. So please listen to your intuition and trust it. I am here to help guide you. Contact me if you need support, but I think it's literally the 11th hour. Humanity needs a new true north, and it's not going to be the TV.
Okay, thanks so much for that. And I do think that we've got lots of questions. Oh my gosh, and lots of chats. And so Lisa is going to open up for questions now.
Sure.
So, hi,
Great.
Lisa.
Hi. And thank you, Nikki. It's so great to hear more about what's been going on inside of you and all of the wonderful trainings that you're doing and the light that you're sharing with the world. And speaking of light, someone has been asking, who's on with us tonight, can you describe light or kind of explain what that is? What do you mean by that?
Oh, great question. Thank you. So if you recall the spectrum I was referencing with the fear and then love. So light is all that is. Light is another word, I guess, for life force. Some people say it's kind of a God energy. And so when you look at the spectrum, if we were to simplify it, to bring light to something is shining the true north, shining the truth, which is love, which is up here. Down here where it's fear-based and dark, and this is where control and violence and manipulation and low self-esteem and control, like all the things. That's where all that toxic energy is, down here in the dark. And the only reason it's dark is because the light's up here. And it's just holding this illusion of separation. I don't know if I'm addressing what your question was, but the more you bring light to something is more of highlighting that everything is love. This is such a good question. I've never had to explain light. This is a really good question. Thank you. So truth, I guess we could also call it truth, the truth of connection, the truth that the universe is all connected and that all is in support for our expansion and joy and love and justice. And the lies and the manipulation are the dark. Did that help?
I think so. I think that does cover it and address some of the
Okay, good.
the references. So that's helpful. And also, we had a question on here. Somebody's wondering, so given all of the light and all of the compassion for others, what do we do? And also, what do you do if you're, say, sitting with your family and they're like Thanksgiving is coming up? So that's one example. What do we do when our loved ones are eating other animals in front of us? How do we process that inside? And is there something we say or do?
This is a great question. And what I have experienced in my own life is that I had to do a significant amount of inner healing with that, because it was very painful to sit at a place of, celebration where I was with people who were not on the same page as me, but also remembering that I used to be on their page as well. And so that's where the inner work and the spirituality really brought light and healing to my interpretation of the situation. There was some struggling internally for me because I wanted to be at peace with my family and friends, but it was like I had this emotional clenching, and I'm like, how do I unknow? How do I unsee? So I had my own little vegan section, and of course people would try it and, well, it's really tasty. I'm like, yeah, pretty good. But what I noticed is the more I did that inner healing work and I started walking into my relationships without that inner judgment, because everybody's psychic. So even if you're not verbally criticizing someone's choices and you're trying to keep on the happy face, they're going to feel something being poked inside of them that helps them feel defensive. So it really does, it all boils back down to doing the inner work to find peace with accepting that we live in a non-vegan world. And that was really like one of the hardest parts for me. It's still something that I have to work on, is knowing that I live in a violent world. There's a violent world here, but we can create a condition with our own lives where we're not judging, we're not resisting, again, because what you resist persists, right? So when you shift and you don't have those hard edges within your heart and within yourself, you're going to notice that all of a sudden you're redirected to be in places that will honor that. Either people around you will start to shift their choices, or something will come up and now you've got this other engagement to be in. And when you are in those heavy situations, you'll notice that you're able to be in the space more and see beyond the limiting behaviors of others, because you'll also know you have limiting behaviors too. So I think it's back to remembering that we're all connected, and that if we have the energy of judgment and resentments, that's the healing work. That's where we need to drop in and say, okay, I know I'm walking on this planet to bring light, love, and healing. I know it's happening. I know others are on that path too. The people in my immediate surroundings may not be in that place yet. That doesn't make them bad people, makes them where they are. Because remember, most of us weren't born vegan. So trying to remember your similarities more than your differences, and your edges will soften. But again, it's really something that can't be taught. It's experiential, and just doing your best to soften the edges of the judgment and the resentment. And I know it hurts. It does hurt. But it's also setting up personal boundaries, right? So if people are antagonizing you and criticizing you, it's about looking at how you're showing up for yourself. And this is in the energy world, it's the solar plexus, it's our yellow chakra in the center. And so how you hold your truth, do you cower behind it and feel insecure, or do you just stand knowingly? I'm vegan because I, in my heart and soul, know that animals aren't a food source. And so I don't participate in that story. And when you can own that, people treat you differently. They show up differently. They're going to talk to you differently. There's nowhere to poke. There's nowhere to antagonize you because you don't get reactive. There's nothing to, I love animals. They're my friends. I just decided to put my personality in alignment with my soul, but without judgment. So that's, again, the inner work.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nikki. That's very clear. And I appreciate that since we are coming upon a holiday where people will be facing that.
Two
So
holidays.
yes, a few of them coming up actually. So yeah, I wanted to invite if anybody who's joining us in the webinar, if you'd like to ask your question by unmuting yourself or by sharing your video, you can let us know that, and that would be okay too. One way to do that is there's a raise hands feature. Also, we have a couple other questions here. So what do you see as the relationship between accepting one's circumstances and changing them? This is from Lexi. There's a little bit more. When do we accept versus push to change the current conditions? And are those two mutually exclusive?
I love that question, and we couldn't have planted a better question. Thank you for that very much, Lexi. So, I think it's semantics, and I feel like I want a new word. I feel like the word accept has too many charges behind it, too many preconceived ideas to it. So we got to work on finding a new word. Acceptance doesn't mean you're condoning something. It doesn't mean that you're just going to say, yeah, all right, it is what it is. Acceptance just means, for instance, this is really the only analogy I have. Say you're outside, you planned this picnic. It took you all week to plan this picnic. You're sitting out on a blanket, everything's beautiful, all the food, and it starts raining. Oh, how horrible, right? So acceptance means, okay, well, it's raining. I accept that it's raining. Now what? You pack up your stuff, you go into the shade, or you sit there and you have a wet picnic. So acceptance just means you're like, okay, well, this is the truth of the moment. It's raining. When we don't accept something, we start punching raindrops and we're yelling at the gods, like, how dare you rain on my day? I had this plan, and I'm writing a lot. Like, we're really angry and aggressive and just resisting and pissed. Shouldn't be raining. We should all over the place. Really mad it shouldn't be raining, and you get into this defensive posture and this angry posture. You still pick up your stuff and walk away, but you're still pissed. You're pissed the rest of the day. It ruined. So the energy of both of those have very powerful impacts on how things are going to unfold for you. So if you just accept that, okay, it's raining, now what? Now I'm going to go over here. So it's really about being in the flow with the moment. So in the example of animals being abused, when I say accept it, it means that we're not, this should not be happening in this angry, gripped way. We say, okay, this systemic issue that's been going on for so long is happening. It is real. It is so real. It is happening right now. Billions of my friends are being abused and mistreated, and they're in pain and they're suffering. Now what? From that place of acceptance, it seems trivial, it seems obsolete, but it is not. From that place of saying, okay, really let it in, like I did with Gary Yourofsky's talk. I fully let myself receive every word that Gary was saying. I was sobbing like a child. I was in absolute hysterics, probably a few days, but I was absolutely absorbing and now coming to align with the truth of the situation. On the other side of that incredible pain is a level of clarity and creative, innovative ideas that you've never could have accessed before. So that is the difference, is to fully let yourself be consumed by the truth It will change you alchemically, emotionally. Your cells and nerves and wires will shift. And from fully absorbing the truth of the situation, remember that spectrum? You just bumped up. Because when we fight things, we are literally in a loop with it. Because the universe is calling on all of us to let go of fear, to fully forgive, and to trust. And if you're down here fighting what is, you're going to stay down there, and you're going to continue to create scenarios to remind you that you're down there. People are going to steal your money. You're going to have shady politicians. You're going to have a whole lot of feedback that that's the reality that you're living in. But when you fully start to accept all of your challenges, whether it's animal abuse, whether it's a raining picnic day, whether it's a bounce check, whether it's a health problem, when you fully let yourself be absorbed by the truth of the situation, you're now bumped up the scale and you're closer to the light. And you're going to need fewer challenges in your day to remind you that you are light, that we're all connected, right? So that's a longer conversation. But in the immediate, when things are gnarly and heavy, and I don't know what the answer is going to be on the other side of it, but each of us allowing ourselves to be consumed by the ugliness of a situation, we change and we now have bumped up, and we're going to have new ideas that we didn't have before. And that's what humanity is evolving into, a new 5-dimensional being that is not bound by the illusion of separation. And we're going to have access to more higher dimensional realms of insights and wisdom from beyond. We're going to have new creative ways to do this and that and this and that, like new puzzle pieces, new colors, new smells, new sounds, so that we aren't going to need to have all this drama. Animals aren't going to go through all the things they're going through, because humans are going to have a different vibration. We're going to create a new humanity, and we won't need those kinds of violent reflections.
Wow, that is a very profound explanation. So I appreciate, we had a great question from Lexi, and now we also have a wonderful answer from Nikki. So thank you very, very much. And can you go into a little more detail about the frequency and the vibration? Because there was another question that we had about that. So perhaps someone was just wondering if you could talk more about higher spiritual vibrational frequencies. And this comes from Melissa, and she's asking how those frequencies relate to not drinking alcohol or etc.
Okay, thank you. So frequencies, if you look at the spectrum, where all things are love. But with the layer of fear, the illusion of separation, that keeps things down here, right? And up here is like the all-knowing, realized connection to all life, infinite potential creator beings that we are. So this is in terms of what your consciousness is, your understanding of life. So when we're in a lower frequency, when you're in a low frequency, that's where diseases come from, and environmental destruction and violence, wars, corruption, abuse. All those things happen when the consciousness of the people are in that lower vibrating frequency. Now, as you raise your vibration, and you raise your vibration in many different ways, exercise, as long as it's because you love your body, not because you're punishing your body. When you are vegan, when you're consuming live plant-based foods, right? Because violence is a very low vibrating thing, and that's where the animals' systems are. When you are doing breath work, conscious deep breathing, when you're doing chanting, Om Mani Padme Om, and like Om, and like all those other things, when you're dancing, when you're laughing, children, for example, vibrate very high. Animals and children and plants vibrate very high. They're up here. They're in the all-knowing, playful, it just is what it is. Even when a child's having a tantrum, they're still vibrating very high, because they're surrendering and allowing the reality of their unhappiness. So when you think of vibration, humans, as we age, we have this thinking mind, and it's called an ego. You'll hear it called an ego. And it is only aware of itself as separate. It doesn't understand unity consciousness. And that's okay. Ego's not bad, but it's been driving the show. And that's where the problems are coming from on Earth. So The work here is to let your light, your remembering of your connection to all that is, and you access that part of you that's always inside through meditation and energy work and breath work and yoga and being in nature. By remembering that, your personal contribution to the density down here, the fear, your own illusions start to dissolve. And now you're starting to move up the spectrum. Your frequency is rising. And when you're in this higher frequency, all of a sudden, life is more fun. Your body feels better. Your health is better. Your relationships seem to flow better. You have these great ideas that turn into these amazing interactions. So on the scale of the spectrum, I really need to get a print out of this, but with fear being where all the challenges are and love being where all the answers are, the more your consciousness, your understanding, your default knowing moves up that scale, the more you feel like a conscious creator of your life rather than being at the reaction of all the things. Did that help?
Yes, that is very helpful. I like the visual. You know, even though we don't have a printout, we certainly have the sense through the hands and just that idea that you're mentioning. So thank you very, very much for answering these questions. And we're so excited that everyone can join in, and we've got such a great conversation in the chat box too. Um, and somebody just shared, there's a book, Power versus Force by Dr.
Mm-hmm.
David R. Hawkins, which exemplifies this, what you were just describing. And it's
Yeah.
based on looking into our vibrational frequencies
Mm-hmm.
and with measurements. So that's a little PS there. Thank you for sharing that, Gloria. And also wanted to invite you, Nikki, if you're open to it. We're coming to the close of our time together, and if you wouldn't mind maybe leading us in a little, like a brief meditation to close out, that would be really quite an honor.
I would love to do that. Thank you for inviting me to, everybody watching. And this is such a gift to be able to share this with you. And I have a longer version of what I'm going to do on my YouTube page. It's Vibe It Up is the name of my, and I'll put that in the link below. I think it's from you can find it from my website. But yeah, there's a 6-minute one I have on YouTube. Grounding and clearing is a really necessary practice to add to your meditation. If you don't have a meditation, you can let this be your meditation. But I'm going to give us just a little taste of it now for the next few minutes. So if you're new to meditating, don't fight the thinking or the distractions. Again, what you fight, you strengthen. So when a thought comes, or if you get an itch or you need to move your leg, just move it and relax and shift your attention. Your attention is powerful. The media knows that and they're using that, right? So shift your attention from the distraction to my voice, to the feelings that you have in your body, to your breath. So it's really where you put your attention is going to determine your experience with any meditation. So just relax. And if you're seated, go ahead and uncross your limbs and come to a nice tall spine. And relax the face. You can close your eyes or bring them to a gentle gaze. And you can have your palms face up on your lap to receive energy and insights. Or if you want to ground and feel more present in your body, you can place them palm down. And just notice your breath. Feeling the rise and fall of your chest. And now I invite you to visualize hovering above your head is a glowing silvery white light. This is source energy, the all that is. It feels familiar and loving, like home. Now as you inhale, see and feel this glowing, loving white energy as it pours into the tip of your crown. Allow yourself to open and receive this pristine healing energy. You may feel warmth and tingling as the divine fills your physical and energetic bodies. Feel it flowing down the jaw and the neck, dissolving tension as it pours down the shoulders, flowing down the arms, the chest, down the back. Just feel the softness and the relaxation as the divine pours down the hips and thighs to the knees and the bottoms of the feet. And now take a deep inhale and see and feel this pristine white light as it has filled your entire body, dissolving all lower energies and emotions, raising your vibration, boosting your immune system, cleansing and recalibrating your bones, organs, blood, and tissues. And just notice from the bottoms of the feet, this divine white light extends out, penetrating the surface of the earth. Glowing brilliant and luminous, it travels down, deep and fast, penetrating the pink crystalline core of Mother Earth. Taking a deep inhale, see and feel this pink loving energy travel up the chamber of the white divine light, ascending faster and higher. Mother Earth's energy exits the surface and penetrates the soles of your feet. Feeling the warmth and love of her glowing, pristine pink energy travel up the legs to the hips. Feeling safe and secure, her pink energy flows up the stomach to the chest, boosting your compassion as her glowing, luminous pink energy flows down both arms to the throat, flowing to the tip of the crown. And with a deep inhale, notice these energies uniting, flowing, raising your vibration, dissolving cords, tensions, and old energies that no longer serve. Know that you are grounded, connected, cleansed, and cleared. And at this time, notice you're surrounded by a golden field of loving energy above, below, and all around. This is the field of the divine, and it supports you in holding your highest vibration and alchemizing all lower energies should they arrive. Taking a deep inhale, see, feel, and know of these supportive energies. Know that you are loved, you belong, you are wanted, and your infinite potential is always here. And slowly begin to deepen your breath. You can wiggle your fingers and toes, coming back into this space. When you're ready, you can flutter your eyes open.
How nice. Thank you, Nikki. What a wonderful way to close out our gathering together, and also this evening to bring us into a kind of sweet, relaxed, and peaceful place.
Yeah.
So
That was
thank you.
wonderful, Nikki. Gosh,
Mm.
you just taught us so much, and I just really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us and give us so much healing just in this 1 hour. So
Well, this is a gift for me. This is what makes my soul light up, and I pray that the world will begin to be filled with people who do what lights them up. It doesn't matter what it is. What lights you up, it lights you up for a reason. Your soul is craving this. We need to live in a world where we're doing that, not what we think we're supposed to do. There's a way to unify it peacefully, but the world needs us to all be lit up.
How
so
beautiful.
true. So true.
It's a nice image as we go into this season of lights that will be lit from within, and we will stay tuned to everything you're doing. For people who have joined us on the webinar, I'll be sending a replay link along with all of the ways to connect with Nikki, and so you'll get that information there. And we'll also post it on this newsfeed too. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your light with us. And thank you to Judy for being an amazing co-hostess, and also to everyone who's joined us. It's that we are all in this unified energy field together, exploring veganism as a spiritual practice. So I truly appreciate your presence this evening. Have a
Yeah.
wonderful evening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Namaste, vegan.
Yes. Namaste,
Namaste.
vegan.
Yes.